Hello listeners, we are your co-hosts Jeanine Bailey and Marie Quigley for the Empower World Coaching and Leadership Podcast. Empower World brings guests who are making a difference to the world to inspire coaches and leaders who lead with mind, heart and soul. Hello and welcome. My name is Jeanine Bailey. Welcome to the Empower World Coaching and Leadership Podcast. And I'm here today with my wonderful business partner, Marie Quigley. Good morning or good evening, Marie.
Good evening, good morning, Jeanine. Good afternoon, wherever you are in the world.
Thank you for joining us. And today what we thought we would cover is closing out a session with our clients. So this is something that we've noticed is part of the questions that we get from our coaches in training, plus people that we're mentoring, how to close the session in a way that feels psychologically safe for our clients and supports the clients to walk away with their learnings and their commitments and actually really trying on those commitments so that they're embedded and the client is really wanting to take that action to support their new way of being and doing and walking towards, if I can use those words, to what it is that they want. Marie, your thoughts?
Yes, listening to a lot of recordings recently for mentoring purpose and those coaches who want to particularly move towards credentialing and are looking for that feedback. What I've been noticing is, say a coach is doing an hour of work with a client. They're at the end of the session, they're almost tripping over each other to try and end the session. And perhaps the client is in a state of deep reflection. Maybe it's very emotional. Maybe there's some deep awareness, but there's so little time left at the end that the coach has not prepared the client to come out of themselves, out of the coaching conversation, and back into their world of reality, moving into work or moving into leaving the coaching session. And there seems to be a rushing almost to close off the session very quickly, which can be a bit discombobulating for a client when you have, particularly the work we do, Jeanine, it's deep transformational work. So the client is often so deep within their own reflections that to quickly wrap up and say, okay, we're coming to the end and we've got a minute left, is a bit of a jolt. So there are ways to gently and powerfully support the client to understand that the time is coming to a close, and how would the client like to end the session? What is present in the closing of the session for the client to reflect on their learnings, become aware of what's new, and, as you said, potentially facilitate growth and moving forward.
Yeah, it's so important to wrap up our sessions in a way that is still powerful, really powerful, and enable the client to walk away feeling like, I've got this, I've got the learnings. And so it is really important as coaches to be able to allow that time to support our clients to recognize what they're taking away and what's within them. It is an ICF core competency to be able to support our clients to really understand the new awareness that they've created, what they're committing to, and trying on what their commitments are. So if you can support your client to try on their commitments, so that might mean perhaps there's a little bit of role play, or it is really imagining when you take those steps, what are the outcomes? What are you noticing? What are you seeing, hearing, feeling, whatever it is that your client uses, whatever modalities your client uses to experience their world. And so checking in with our client, those sorts of things, what are you taking away? What's here? Is there anything that's holding you back? What are you experiencing when you go out into the future, when you try on those things? again, it's going to reinforce the learnings. It's going to support embedding the learnings. And again, we've spoken about supporting our client to program the reticular activator system as well, the RAS, that part of our mind that's like the Google search engine for what is wanted and potentially what is not wanted. So as coaches, we want to support our clients to program that part of their mind to seek what is wanted, to really experience what they know in their heart, mind and soul and body that they do want.
So true. So the actions, what actions are they going to take to move themselves forward is one part of the getting curious about that. And the other part is, what are they learning about themselves in the who they're being in the work? What are they discovering about their patterns of behavior, about their ability to learn, about their ability to shift perspectives? Who is this person at the end of the conversation versus the beginning of the conversation? What are the differences that they're experiencing? Maybe it's a thought shift. Maybe it's an emotional shift. Maybe there's a physiology shift that the client is walking away with that's going to be really important for them to remember in the action stage. We have this beautiful model that we talk about in training, that is the be, do, have model. So who are you being in order to create what you want to have in the world, to be in the world? So those questions are really linking in that core competencies of paying attention to the who as well as the what.
Yes. Yes, Marie, I love that you brought in that be, do, have model. I think, and I believe it's such a powerful model to utilize because it is about the who are we being? Who is our client being? It's, it goes back to the mindset. And when we're working with our client's mindset, that is when it's transformational. That's when the sessions come out of the head and really, again, into the heart, mind, body, soul, when the client is recognizing who they're being and based on that, what they are doing. So that model ensures that the client's awareness of what they want and what they recognize they do want to be different is being lived potentially in that moment and from that moment forward versus putting out their commitments out into the future. So it is really powerful. And the other part that is important to when we're supporting our clients to try on their goals is also to test their commitments. So to test when those challenges come up, because those old challenges that potentially our client brings into the session, what they've been experiencing and what they want to overcome, those challenges will continue to keep coming up. But what the client is learning is in powerful coaching conversations is who they are choosing to be that is different, and also what are they committing to doing that is also different. So supporting our clients to test when those challenges come up in the future, who is it that they will choose to be when that happens? What will be different as a consequence of making those different choices and choosing to potentially step into who they've discovered they are truly being in the coaching session, allowing them again to experience that is continuing to program the reticular activator system. I hope what I've just shared now makes sense, Marie.
And hopefully it will to our listeners too. Thank you for sharing. So important for us to think about all of that. And listeners, as you hear Jeanine and I talking about this, you can see closing can be intricate. It can be powerful. There can be massive learning in the closing out. So when you only leave a couple of minutes to close out, potentially you're missing out on an opportunity for the client to create some powerful learnings for themselves. So practically speaking, if you've got an hour session, leave enough time at the end, 15, 10 minutes, to close off beautifully, to wrap that bow around the learnings so that they can walk out with the gift of this session and unpack it and remember it. And because you've embedded it and they've you've given them feedback about their responses or their physiology, it will make it even more impactful for them as they unpack the gift when they're in real life. So don't discount the closing off part of the session. It is a beautiful process, and masterful coaches recognize that that's an important part of the conversation. You are giving as much value in the closing off as you are in the deep work that the client is doing.
Yes, absolutely, Marie. Beautifully articulated in terms of the closing of the session, giving it time. And it is, again, part of the masterful way of working with clients. And I mean, there are so many things that we do bring into a closing session. I know that we do this, Marie, and there's a few more ideas that are popping through. And it is really also about acknowledging our client and sharing what we've noticed. So reflecting back, again, that's what we do as coaches. We reflect back what we notice about our clients. So being able to champion and acknowledge our clients in this part of the session is also very, very powerful and supports our clients to, again, recognize they've done great work. So, and even asking our clients, you know, how would you like to acknowledge yourself, can also be very powerful, so that the client recognizes, yes, I've done some amazing, incredible work. And along with that, supporting them to understand accountability. Who's going to be accountable for what it is they want? And again, as coaches, we really want to support our clients to take 100% responsibility for their results. If our clients are saying, I'm accountable, then we can really appreciate that our clients are really on their way to supporting themselves, to become independent and to be able to lead themselves. So this is also going to be incredibly important. Now, we also recognize that potentially sometimes your clients, when they come to a coaching session, may be deep into their challenge. And perhaps as a consequence, they're so deep in their challenge, a lot of the session will be about supporting them in the moment with what is coming up for them. So even if we spend a lot of time supporting our client with that challenge and supporting them in the present moment, we still want to allow time at the end to support them to understand, what are you taking away? What have you learned about yourself? What is it that you'd like to commit to? And it may be just journaling, it may be just reflecting, because they've done so much heavy lifting as a consequence of what they've bravely brought into the session. So yes, sometimes you might only have a few minutes to close the session. However, we encourage you coaches to, as much as possible, allow that plenty of time to close off a session in some of the ways that we've shared today.
So coaches, listen to your work. Get familiar with your own patterns of coaching and what's working well and what's not serving your clients. Remember, this is all in service of your clients and supporting you to be the best coach possible. So listen into your work. If you find your closing sessions are short and your clients are jolting out of your sessions instead of moving through the learning and happily moving on into their world, then reconsider perhaps how you're choosing to be at the end of the session. And if you notice you're constantly going over time, check in with that. What's that about? How can you support yourself to be really effective in the time that you have committed to give to your client? It's potentially a thing to bring to supervision when we're going over time constantly. Perhaps there's a need that you want to fulfill. So it's looking at many various things that are going on in the coaching partnership when you are not able to close off gently, smoothly, for the purpose of serving the client, or where we're going over time and moving into constantly being late on closing our session. It's pretty intense work doing coaching, and sometimes moving over time is not useful for the client, even though we think we should be giving more of our time, because as coaches, we're often really people who like to give. So it's being mindful of how we are being.
Yeah, I think that's again a really great point that you bring in, Marie. And if you're doing deep work and transformational work, and at the same time you're being really effective as a coach, you should be able to close out a session in the time that you've allotted. So you shared, Marie, about bringing this to supervision. So potentially, if you are finding that you're running over time, you're wanting to give more and more, that is a wonderful opportunity for supervision and for mentoring as well. So potentially a combination of those things to understand, who am I being as a coach? What are my beliefs that I'm bringing in that is perhaps supporting that going over time and giving? So there'll be potentially something that's going on within yourself as a coach that you're bringing into the session, influencing the session somehow, some way. And again, it's a beautiful opportunity for self-development, self-growth, to understand, how can I be even more effective and transformational as a coach to support my clients to create their own beautiful transformation.
Well said, Jeanine. So if you like what you've heard, if you want to know more, if you're curious about some of the work we do, some of the mentoring, some of the training, or some of the supervision, please reach out to us. We'd love to have a conversation with you. And if you enjoy these podcasts, please share with the community, because our purpose is also to share with as many people and support coaches around the globe. Thank you for listening.
The world needs more wonderful, powerful, transformational coaches who can support their clients to do the same. So we hope to see you somehow, some way in another podcast or one of our trainings. And we wish you all the very best with you and your clients.
Thanks for listening. You can find out more about us on our website, www.empower-world.com, and on our social media networks, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Be empowered.